It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to see all the farmers and the Ag Launch team again. It's been a long 18 months. My name is Bruce Webb. I'm with Lepidext, and we have a new solution for the corn earworm problem. I think everybody knows what the corn earworm is and what it does. What we have is something that's based on a natural virus that is in about 20% of the insects in your field. What we have done is make that natural virus work about 5 times better than what's in the field. And what that natural virus does is it sterilizes the corn earworm. So if you could sterilize the corn earworm before it starts laying eggs, then you're able to head off your problem. Okay, now this is a brand new technology, and we're trying to figure out how it works. And so we're asking really pretty simple questions. The first question we asked with Scott Fullen and Josh Ogle last year was, how far will this virus spread? We're releasing a live insect. We have approval to release on the small acreage. So we released it at one site in Ripley, Tennessee, and you can see that right here. We're in the middle of a large cotton field, and we had pheromone traps. I'm sure most of you guys have seen pheromone traps. They capture the males only. We're releasing sterile males and females. We mark the insects so that we know if we released them or not, and that lets us calculate what the population is in the field and what we release. So we release between 4 and 12% of the insects in the field. All the insects that we released were susceptible to BT, to all the toxins, and they were sterile. And so I told Scott and Josh that I didn't want them to do anything different about the way they manage their field. We released 920 insects, and we sampled over a 72-acre field. Now these colors are coded to show where we found the virus. This is the time of release. The first day we found only in the very close to where we released, within 50 to 100 feet. 2 days later, we had 20% across the entire area we were sampling. 5 days later, we had 50 to 80% of the insects in that field infected with the virus. Okay? 9 days later, you can see we're going back to baseline. So we shoot that virus into the field, the moths spread it for us, we do 1 point release, it covered 72 acres. Okay? You look at this and we know it's covering more than that. So this year we're doing a larger trial, again on Scott Fullen's place, Mid-South Family Farms, and we're doing about 150 acres. And so people ask, how are we going to deliver this technology to the field? And we tell them we open a box, and that is literally what we do. We open the box and the moths auto-disseminate, okay? So we answered that first question. We still have, there are layers to that question, but we know that this thing will disperse very effectively, okay? The second question is, does it make a difference? We're doing a sweet corn trial in Kentucky. In Kentucky, we have 1/4 acre plots. And so this is the total opposite of what we're doing in a 100-acre field in cotton. Okay? So we released, I think it's 20 insects that were infected with the virus, 80 insects that were uninfected, and we asked, what happens in the field? And I've always believed that a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you look at this image here, one of them is the one that we released virus onto. And you see about 20% of the insects in the one that we released the virus. Again, this is one release. We're sampling 2 weeks after we release the insects. So we're looking for caterpillars 2 weeks after we release the moth. And we're seeing an 80% reduction in that 1/4 acre field. Okay? So does it make a difference? And you can see the bar graph shows the same thing. does it make a difference? If you look at the corn, the ones that are orange are the ones that had no virus. The ones that are green are the ones that had virus. And this is, again, 2 weeks after we release it. You know, we're picking the ears of corn, we're sampling 200 to 300 ears per quarter acre plot. And this isn't 100% kill, but it knocks down about 80% of your problem. And again, this is the first time we've really asked for, you know, can we do anything by way of control? Now I can think about 100 reasons why that experiment would fail. I can think about one reason as to why you would see a difference between these two treatments. And so I'd like you to just look at it and convince yourself. Okay? Do I have any questions? Is this clear for everybody? I've thrown a lot of stuff.
You've now said the word virus a bunch of times. We're in the middle of a big international discussion on viruses. Could you kind of talk about that and the optics?
If you guys have sprayed baculoviruses, it's approved as an organic pesticide. This is a relative of the baculovirus groups. Like I said, it's already in your field. About 20% of the insects already have it. What we have done is inactivate one gene. We've all heard about asymptomatic infections, right? The virus that we have in the field, 80% of the time, causes an asymptomatic infection. And those insects that have an asymptomatic infection are 100% fertile. What we have done is knock out the gene that controls that asymptomatic infection. So it's only able to cause the sterilizing infection. And the technology is such that we didn't add anything to this virus. We took something away from it. There's no new DNA. It's not a recombinant organism. It's not a GMO. It's a virus that's already out there that is a strain that has limited capacity, and that limited capacity works in our favor. Okay, is that clear with everybody? Okay, and that's why we see, if you look at this, that's why you see that burst of infection, and then the technology goes back to baseline.
I just want to reiterate, when you go down this line, cool technologies, but entrepreneurs like Bruce, I think we're adding a value to you all, but every one of these companies, the farmers in the network, actually have equity in it, and they've got an ownership stake in it from helping. And that's a very rare thing in agriculture. Often there's a bunch of ideas that come to farmers. They're asked to try it. I think you're the one who said, like, we had somebody pitching Scott and said, you know, the only thing I want is access to your farm and access to your brain. And it's, well, what else is there on this whole thing, right? And so that's what makes this unique. And Bruce, I want to compliment you and the other entrepreneur. Y'all been so easy to work with, and it's just a great example of a win-win, totally aligned with what we're trying to do, which is deal with, you know, there's not going to be one silver bullet. There's going to be multiple approaches to deal with reducing the amount of chemicals, being more efficient, and targeting some of these things. So I'm assuming you'll give me the last word on that. That has worked before. I appreciate it. Scott hates being on film, and he keeps doing it for me because we need it while we're building. And we'll go ahead. Bruce has a few more comments.
You guys know about BT refuges? You guys like planting the BT refuge? Okay, so we have 4 boxes here. One of them is in both treatment. One is BT, and it's the Cry-A1C, so it's first generation BT, and the other is non-BT. And what you see is that we're in this treatment, we're releasing insects that are susceptible. So this is a refuge on the wing. We're putting insects into the field that are susceptible to that Cry-A1C, and you can see in the non-transgenic corn, think non-transgenic soybean, that you see a lot more insects. We see about 40% more insects in the non-transgenic than we see in the transgenic. So one of the major opportunities that we think we have with this technology is to modulate BT resistance in the field. So if you have resistance to VIP3 arising, we could go in and knock down that population of VIP3 resistant insects. And that would preserve the utility of those technologies. Okay, I meant to say that earlier, I just forgot it.